Well, my name is Mark Sanborn, and I am a professional speaker and author from Denver, Colorado. For 25 years, I've been studying leadership, customer service, and extraordinary performance, and sharing my insights through my writing and through my speaking with primarily corporate audiences, but a diversity of other kinds of audiences as well, primarily here in the United States and about a dozen foreign countries. I am a practitioner. I've been involved in local and national leadership on several different levels. I serve on some boards of directors, and the reason I include that is because I am a business person who speaks versus a business speaker. That would be someone who has studied and read a lot about business and reports on it versus someone who is a practitioner as a leader and as a business person and then uses that life experience as a laboratory to field test ideas and share them with audiences and readers. I do. I think that's important because we want to know well, first of all, I tell audiences, in all honesty, you really don't care what I did. I mean, you may be nice human beings, but at a real level, you don't care what I did, and you really don't care that much about what I learned. What you care about is what you can learn from what I learned. And the problem is that secondary research, just like secondary life experience, isn't original or unique. It's valid if it's good research because we're simply repeating what someone else has found. But I found that credibility as a communicator comes not just from knowing but consistently doing. Also, I think there's a great deal of credibility to be had in talking about what you did that didn't work so that you can prevent someone else from going down the wrong path. And in that regard, people can learn as much from your failures as from your successes. I think many times leaders think that a failure or a setback or a downturn takes away from their credibility. And the only time it really takes away from their credibility is when they deny it or don't own it. It's when we're able to say, I take full responsibility, only then do we get full credit. Very often, people in general and leaders in particular will take credit but place blame. You know, they'll blame the economy when times are bad for sales, but then they'll claim sales success when times are good. I don't think you can honestly have it both ways. I think that you have to take responsibility for how you responded to the circumstances of your life instead of blaming away the bad and only taking credit for the good. To me, conscious business can be summed up in a very simple idea. It's about doing something because it's the right thing to do. We have seen businesses try to do the right thing for the wrong reasons. The green movement is a good example. Sustainability in the early days was seen as a tremendous marketing ploy. If we can pay lip service to or find some way to suggest to our customers that we're green and sustainable, they'll like us, do more business, spend more money, and tell others. And a funny thing happened. The companies that were doing it because it was profitable didn't get it right. It was the company that did it because they said, well, we certainly hope we make more money and we like the loyalty of our customers that agree with us, but really we're doing it because we believe it's important. It's good for the planet, it's good for the products that we produce. And I don't know how it works, but I have seen so many times in my life that when we do the right things for the wrong reason, we short-circuit the benefits. However, if you do the right things for the right reasons, even if you don't profit from it, you still benefit from it. That is to say, the early sustainability organizations that committed to it may not have reaped great piles of profit. They might have been on the front end of that movement, but what they did is they did the right thing, and they had the satisfaction of knowing that they pursued practices that now are increasingly accepted and used by other organizations. So I think that goes back to one other idea, and we've often heard it said, how you keep score determines how you play the game. If it's just about profit, well, you're probably going to do some things that are a little sketchy. If it's just about, and I think it's important to point out, if it's just about doing the right thing, you might actually have a philanthropy or a ministry, but you don't necessarily have a business. As a speaker and an author, I'm often asked by people, they say, well, you know, speaking is my passion or writing is my passion. And I say to them, that's great, but if you don't treat it like a business, you're not going to get to practice your passion. So one of the interesting things about conscious business is it's the ability to balance, it's the ability to understand that money follows value, that If we do things that the marketplace values, we will be rewarded for it. But if we do the right things, one of the things that will happen is, yes, we will probably profit from it because profit's what sustains us. It's the fuel, it is the sustainability fuel of a for-profit business. But regardless of the amount of profit, we'll still have the satisfaction of knowing we did the right thing. Oh, I've been writing and talking about leadership for 25 years, and when I speak to emerging leaders, I talk about 15 things they need to know, which is a lot of things to remember. But I would say that unequivocally, in my opinion, the first question of leadership is, why do you want to lead? I have found recently leadership has become so in vogue, so trendy, that far more people want to be leaders than actually do leadership. You know, it's kind of like, I'd love to be rich, I just don't want to work very hard. I'd love to be famous, I just don't want to learn to play an instrument or learn how to perform in a public venue. So leadership is always the outcome of behavior. And any behavior is driven by the big question, why? If you don't have a compelling reason to be a leader, you can take all the courses, read all the books, you're never going to develop particularly effective leadership skills. But if you have a really compelling reason, that will both drive you in your pursuit of developing those skills, it'll sustain you when things are difficult, and it will help you enjoy the process as much as the outcome. So number one, I would say, if you want to be an effective leader, ask yourself, why do I want to lead? If it's for aggrandizement and status and position and power, those are really very uncompelling reasons to lead. You may have those as reasons, but they're not going to really help you become a great leader. The second thing that I would encourage anyone that wants to truly lead to do is to get very clear on what matters. I believe that leaders do two things. Number one, they know what matters. And ironically, many people haven't done the hard work of really thinking about or figuring out what's truly important in life. So a leader is someone who knows what matters and is able to make it matter to others. They're able not just to hold deep convictions, but to get other people sold on those convictions, to get other people to support their efforts with their own efforts or with their time or their money. So if you know what matters, then as a leader, the second challenge is, how do I make it matter to others? Which would really bring me to my third tool, and I think it's an indispensable tool for any leader, and that is communication. 60 to 80% of all the problems in the workplace have some connection to poor or ineffective communication. It's not the entirety of the failure or the problem, but it's often a factor. Just like so many, regrettably and tragically, so many traffic accidents involve liquor. It may not be the only reason there was an accident, but it's certainly an important factor in the accident. Well, communication shows up that way in a lot of leadership and organizational failures. So if you learn to communicate, be compelling in how you talk about what needs to be done, what's important and why, that will give you the basic foundation you need to lead. There are other important skills, power with people, the ability to create focus and sustain it, execution. But without the clear sense of why you want to lead, without being clear on what matters and the ability to communicate it in such a way that you make it matter to others, you're off to a false start. So that would be the foundation I would start to build on. Well, first of all, Bob has amazing hair. I don't know that I have very many friends that have as full a head of hair as Bob Berg, and it's got that distinguished salt and pepper. Actually, Bob's blonde. Most people don't know that, but he likes to dye his hair salt and pepper, and it works for him. And so first would certainly be his hair. But you know, the real reason I like to collaborate with Bob Berg is because he's a good human being. And when I spoke at the Go Giver retreat recently that Bob hosts, both as a testament to Bob, but to illustrate a bigger point, I said, in the whole realm of personal development and success and leadership and all the rest, if you just start with being a good human being, everything else is details. And it's about the kind of person you become, the character that you develop, and the way you treat others. And I think Bob is just a great example of a good human being that has a big heart and really, like me, is a capitalist, but who does it in a way that delivers more value than whatever benefit he receives in the way of profit or customer loyalty. It's funny, sometimes people, for odd reasons I don't understand, think that people that write books or give speeches are in some kind of cakewalk profession and they shouldn't be paid for it. And I always say to those people, do you go to work for free? I mean, this is how we make our livelihood. I am a merchant of ideas. I use the medium of the written word and the spoken word to convey those ideas. Newscasters use the medium of television. There are different mediums to use, but the reality is that if an idea has value, like a service provider in healthcare or education or law or manufacturing, there should be compensation commensurate to the value of the idea. One of the things I talked about at the Go Giver Retreat, and Bob and I are exactly on the same page, Bob says that money is an echo of value. I say that profit or money is the shadow that value casts. If you're not getting paid enough money for your products or your services, you've got to look at the value you provide. Now, I often tell people I can't debate that what people value, what I would necessarily agree with. We live in sometimes an unfair world. If the world were completely fair, then a good school teacher would get paid more than a bad executive. If the world were completely fair, then a competent healthcare provider would get paid more than a mediocre professional athlete. I can't debate what people value or why, but at the end of the day, as an economist by training and as a speaker and author and leadership practitioner, I always focus on value because it is the commerce and the marketplace of human affairs. And Bob and I are on the same page, and that's why we collaborate on a year of success with people like my good friend Larry Winget and Sally Hogshead, because the four of us noticed that in the marketplace, there were a lot of get-rich-quick programs. And my experience is that if you get rich quick, you get poor quicker, because money gives people means, but not skills. So you can give somebody a pile of money, and if they don't know how to handle it, in short order, the pile of money's gone. We wanted to provide a straight-ahead resource on how to enrich every aspect of your life. The four of us agreed, very few people are firing on all 8 cylinders. We rarely meet people that go, my life is perfect as is, I don't want it to get any better. If it was, unless they're being sarcastic, if it was any better, I couldn't stand it. Most people want to live better, larger, richer lives. So we said, what are the principles, what are the practices that will enable people to do that? And we created 52 3 to 4 minute videos, 1 per week, and an action plan, 2 doable ideas for each video, so that anyone, regardless of their profession, their background, their success or lack of it, could use to enrich their lives. And we tell people that we can do everything except the work of applying the principles. That's the difference between Get Rich Quick and what we offer. We offer the ideas, you provide the effort, and together that's a powerful combination. A year of success consists of myself, and I talk about leadership, both at a personal as well as an organizational level, because we have to begin by being able to lead ourselves, if you will, taking responsibility for our own lives before we can hope to lead and influence others. Larry Winget, who's a longtime friend, called the pit bull of motivation. He's got some very unorthodox views, and frankly, I don't always agree with Larry. Larry doesn't always agree with me, but hey, he's one of my closest friends, and I think he has some very provocative and powerful ideas. I always tell people it's not about agreement. My wife loves me more than anybody, and she doesn't even always agree with me. So I don't have a problem with people who disagree. What I want to do is to challenge people's thinking, and certainly Larry does a good job at that. Then there's Bob. Bob is the master of persuasion. He knows how to ethically sell. He knows how to convince and influence people, and he talks about some of the tools that he's developed for doing that. And then, of course, our fourth member, a wonderful person named Sally Hogshead, who's just tearing it up on the speaking circuit because she is the queen of how to fascinate. Her research and the research of others shows that you've got 9 seconds to get someone's attention, and she has over 100,000 data points about how to engage and fascinate another person. She makes the point in her contribution to A Year of Success that how you see the world's important, but how the world sees you is just as important. So together, the four of us have created what we think is an exciting new resource. It's a learning resource, pure and simple. And if you're willing to do the hard work of applying, listening and watching is easy. It's applying it that's hard. If you're willing to do that, you can benefit greatly from A Year of Success. If you want to learn more about A Year of Success, just go to www.ayearofsuccess.com. There's a landing page, and by the way, you'll get to see Bob and Sally and Larry and I and listen to us talk about what you're going to learn in depth. And from the landing page, if you're interested, it'll take you to the registration page, and in a matter of minutes, you can get started on how to have your best year ever. If you're trying to apply, for instance, Bob Burg's 5 laws of stratospheric success, it's not just about writing down and reviewing the ideas. It's about applying and reapplying the principles. Oswald Chambers once said, "Don't read to remember, read to realize." And that's what I think we all have to do as students of success, is we have to say, well, what's the principle here? And then we have to ask, how can we apply it? You have to go from a concept to a concrete reality. And that always boils down to a behavior. And the question then becomes, what should I do? If Bob says that value is about giving more in value than you get in profit, then you ask, how can I deliver more value to my clients so that they feel they're getting even more than they paid for? I think that the key to success is application. When I speak to an audience, thanks to my friend Scott Halford in Denver, Colorado, who's getting a master's in brain science, Scott says when we listen, we aren't learning, we're gathering ideas. And it's not until we apply the ideas that we've truly learned. And that's what you do with Bob's work, my work, or anyone's work, to go from these valid and true concepts to a concrete reality that benefits you. I always say truth is transferable. Principles are true across time, context, and culture. A principle was true 100 years ago, it'll be true 100 years hence. The only thing that changes is application. For instance, whatever the principle is for creating relationships at work, the same principle applies at home. It's just how you apply it. You just apply the principle differently, but it's about getting to know and understand a person. It's about communication. It's about trust. The principle doesn't change. The context changes, but the application is what allows you to apply the principle to any area of your life. So I tend not to differentiate between work principles and home principles. Kind of like John Maxwell says, there is no such thing as business ethics. They're just ethics. Now, if you apply ethics to business, I guess you could say it becomes business ethics, but the principles of ethics don't change in a different environment. One of my favorite quotes is from Henry James. Henry James, interestingly to me, was the brother of William James. William James was the first great American psychologist. So obviously the James boys were from a family of overachievers. And Henry James, as a creative and as a writer, said, it's time to start living the life we've imagined. The problem, as I see it, is that most people haven't imagined a life different than they're living. They're trapped by their own expectations. I believe that all of us, myself included, need to aspire higher. You know, we need to be willing to go for things that we may not be able to achieve and live with the disappointment. People often don't aspire higher because they don't want to be disappointed. And the easiest way to avoid being disappointed is don't expect much and you'll never be disappointed. My vision is as an influencer. I believe that thought leadership is conferred, not claimed, but I've been gratified that my work and what I do has been referred to by others as thought leadership. I wouldn't make that claim, but it's confirming to know that at least some people believe it is. And as a thought leader, my goal is very simple, and that is to have a bigger, greater impact in a positive way. You know, I could make more money, and certainly as a believer in free enterprise, I believe that profit is the reward for delivering value. But at the end of the day, it's not just about the profit that I realize, but the impact that I make. And it's very simple but powerful guiding force for me, so that I know that regardless of the monetary outcome, I've given people ideas that could help enrich their businesses and their lives. That's my vision for my business. My personal life is to always be better. I think that I could summarize my philosophy with that one word, better. To be a better husband, to be a better father, to be a better friend, a better son, a better brother. And if we know that it's always about doing our best, we'll never, ever ultimately fail. If you've done your best in any aspect of your life, personally or professionally, you may not have achieved what you set out to achieve, but you'll know that the best you could do is all you can do. And I think too often we beat up on ourselves and try to live in some kind of a funky universe where we do our best, and because it wasn't enough, we beat up on ourselves. The only time we should be discouraged is when we didn't do our best, we didn't prepare, we didn't practice, we didn't bring the right intentionality or mindset. And if we failed then, the best thing we can extract out of that is a lesson about what to do next time to avoid that kind of a setback. Malcolm Forbes, on his tombstone, has an epitaph that reads, "While alive, he lived." And I've always thought that was a great, concise epitaph. But I've always wanted to do a little bit more than that. And so if I were to choose, and I hope I have a long time before they have to use it, my own epitaph, it would be, "While alive, he lived. While he lived, he loved. Because he loved, he served. And when he served, he led." And if I could fulfill that, I would have led a very successful life. The word vision is something I work with a lot with my corporate audiences, because I find that many people in business confuse vision and mission. They're used interchangeably. You can do that, but to me, they're very different concepts. A vision is a view of the future. It answers the question, what will a successful outcome look like? Mission answers the question, why are we going there? So if vision's the destination, mission's the reason. I love what my friend Ian Percy in Scottsdale, Arizona says. He says, most companies don't need a mission statement, they just need a mission. It's the difference between saying we want to be the global leader in providing insulin for the treatment of diabetes. That's a kind of a sterile mission statement to we want to improve the lives of those with juvenile onset and adult diabetes. The one is an abstract statement, the other is a compelling mission. So I think that the vision answers the question, what will success look like? Or, to put it differently, how will we know when we've gotten there? Mission answers the question, why were we going there to begin with? What is my big why? I love Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes was a book that is the intersection between philosophy and theology. And the writer of Ecclesiastes said at the very end of the book, first he said of the making of many books, there is no end. They didn't even have printing presses then, and they were already tired of the new releases. But what I find inspiring in the book of Ecclesiastes is said, and here's the end of the matter, fear God and keep his commandments. Now, what people don't understand is that the word fear isn't fear God like he's going to squish you with his thumb. It's more synonymous with reverence and awe. To be in awe of God and the world that he's created and the opportunities he's provided you, and to keep his commandments. Why? Because if there is a creator, as I believe, and I know not everyone shares that sentiment, then that creator would have the basic operating system for what a full, rich life looks like. So for me, it's about knowing and glorifying God in my work, not proselytizing in words, but practicing in terms of behavior, those things that I believe we're all called to do by our creator. Why should people come play with me? Well, I have a lot of great clients and friends that I get to hang out with, and it's gratifying as a communicator to know interesting speakers and authors and others. But at the end of the day, I think the reason to come play with anyone is because your life becomes better because of theirs, and their life becomes better because of yours. I tell my clients, leaders don't just tell a better story, leaders make the story better. One is spin, the other is the substance of leadership. So my goal is to have fun, because I'm a big believer in fun, have fun becoming better at what we do, whether it's at home, at work, in our personal lives, or in our professional lives.